genocided. And in the when they are rebuilding Palestine as a sovereign nation state, they are very homophobic, they're very transphobic. They're like really harming gay people and trans people in Palestine. They're like arresting them. I still think that while still inappropriate, would be a far greater outcome than being completely wiped out and being completely genocided. I don't think that is going to be the outcome. But regardless, I want to make it very clear. I think that, yes, no genocide is better than, any kind of genocide. We're
not making a genocide tier list. I get that. I understand. My point is that I agree with you. I just don't think that I don't like their culture either, right? I find it to be problematic as well. And that's why I
By the way, the people that we were talking about in terms of Palestinians are like, they are some of the most educated per capita population in spite of everything else, just for the record. Like, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Palestinians are literally some of the most educated people on the planet, like per capita.
I hope so. I mean,
I hope so. I mean, there's like
sorry,
Palestinian educational attainment is in spite of being genocided by Israel, in spite of like living under Israeli occupation, is incredibly high. They have a tremendous amount of obviously a tremendous amount of struggles and tremendous amount of hurdles to go through, but the status of education in Palestine is that 96.3% of the population is literate. It's higher than like the high human development category average, as in Palestinian society as a whole is like has a higher literacy rating than developed nations.
That's really good. That's great.
Yeah. So like, I don't think that these are the religious fundamentalist people that you think that they are, is what I'm trying to explain.
I don't think that I think there were a lot of people that were religious and also very well educated that can do very bad things. I don't think that, like,
for sure,
the more educated you are, like, I see what you're saying. And I think that you definitely do have an argument with it. Do you
understand why like cultural inferiority arguments end up like leading you astray in this subject matter? Because now that I've told you the literacy rate being higher in Palestine in the Palestinian population, now you're saying, well, they can be literate and still fundamentalist, but like, there isn't evidence of this reality of like broad sweeping fundamentalism in Palestinian existence at all. If you are pointing to Hamas, which is a Islamist fundamentalist organization that started off as a charity that became this like violent resistance group, in terms of their governance, if that's what you're pointing to, once again, the situation is very different for the broader Palestinian society, because that is the only group that has successfully been able to thwart Israeli further Israeli incursions. That is the reason why they are the domineering group. Israel killed all the fucking secular leadership so consistently, or turned it into, like the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, turned it into its own security apparatus, but with a Palestinian face. So from the calculation of the Palestinians, they're like, okay, these guys are fucking, these guys are religious, but they're also the only people defending us.
It's the devil, you know. I understand the
It's not even the devil. They see it as like, these are the only people that are fighting back against the country that is, bombing my house.
I understand that. And I can see their point of view. I just think that they're still bad. I do. I think it's bad to prosecute people and to kill them based off of their identity.
Okay, there's no disagreement. There's no disagreement with what you're saying.
Of course.
The difference, however, is that again,
go ahead.
Palestinian internal governance has always existed within the confines of being a colonial entity. They have never had full-blown sovereignty. So their internal affairs have to always be analyzed. Well, one, Palestinians are not of one mind, right? So that's number one. And number two is that we are talking about, especially if we're talking about the Gaza Strip, we're talking about people that are majority underage. Majority. The majority of the Gaza Strip is under the age of 18. So, like, we're talking about killing teenagers for the most part. We're talking about killing kids because that's what's going on. So, like, their internal governance or what has happened in Palestinian society, it bears no basis in the outcome. Israel's killing them whether they are gay. Israel's killing them whether they're straight or whether they're fundamentalists or not. Palestinians could be the wokest, okay? Palestinians could be making fucking video games with like only trans representation, and Israel would still be killing them. Okay? That's the reason why it doesn't matter in this conversation whether they would engage in any sort of like internal governance post-emancipation that is like homophobic or not.
I think that it really I think that they should be able to make that decision themselves, right? Like, if they want to do that, that's fine. Like, that's, I mean, they're a sovereign nation, or they should be a sovereign nation. They should be able to do that. I just don't like the cultural equivalency. I do actually think that these cultures are, in a lot of cases, worse. And I think that there are a lot of points of difference there, whether it's about how you can speak up against the government, how you can resist different types of control.
But there is no government. Like, you're, again... Remember what I told you about like the Espionage Act during World War II and like during Cold War, all of these like laws that were created to dominate American people for having a difference in opinion.
Sure, but all those are bad. Like, that's
I understand,
my point, though,
but
right?
it's because it was born out of necessity in the minds of those who were responsible for the government. You yourself are in at odds with that, but ultimately you still said, maybe because you didn't know this, you still said that like America is the, you know, a far superior culture. The point is, it has nothing to do with like. The point is, it has nothing to do with like a culture at all, and everything to do with the material conditions that you're subjected to. That's my argument, and that at least throughout history, societies that have been allowed to foster, allowed to prosper, have inevitably had these struggles that are born out of a genuine need for people that want equality. And that's it. That's the reason why. And there's always going to be resistance from others inside of said societies every step of the way. But in order for you to analyze this, you have to look at Palestinians in the same exact way that you look at your fellow Americans, because there is no difference. Ultimately, they're still, at the end of the day, they're still human beings. And some of them are gay, some of them are trans, and they all want equality. They all want a fucking job. They all want shelter, and they all, you know, want to play WoW Classic over retail.
Right. I of course, I agree with you about all of those things, except for I don't know if all of them want equality. I do think that some of those people do actually hold very regressive views, the same as the way that we have people.
That's what I mean. Right? But you have to, you have to analyze broader Palestinian society in the exact same way, with that the moment that you are equipped with the understanding that they are no different than Americans, okay? Some are going to be restrictive, some are going to believe fucking insane shit, some are going to believe insane shit in the other direction. Like some are going to want to make Concord again, okay? Some Palestinians are going to be like, I want to make Concord, but more gay.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is just the reality. There are
that might be happening.
There are people with a diversity of opinion. They're no different than you and I in terms of their needs, in terms of like the way, in terms of what they want for themselves, and that friction is always going to exist in every society. And when you are no longer shackled by the restrictions of existing under a colonial occupation, you will be able to move society forward by fighting. There's going to be struggles. There's always going to be struggles every step of the way. But you have to understand, that America was able to get to this point after years and years of a lot of revolutionary figures fighting for it. And Palestinians have never had that opportunity because they've always been dominated by a far, far greater military force. And that force has surveilled every aspect of their lives. That force has dominated every aspect of their lives. I'll give you one example, like in terms of queer phobia, right?
Sure.
Israel literally will blackmail gay Palestinians. They will try to create sexual material, okay, of gay Palestinians,
Yeah, sure.
in an effort to turn them into confidential informants for the state of Israel. Like, that's not exactly very pro-gay, is it? It's not.
Oh, Israel's awful. Yeah, for sure.
No,
like,
but that's my point.
Definitely.
Ultimately, just like Israeli bombs do not make a distinction between gay Palestinians and straight Palestinians who are homophobic or whatever. Like,
No.
at the end of the day, these guys have never been able to get to a point where they have any sort of civil governance whatsoever, so they can rebel against it internally. But remember, it's always the people that